So thanks everyone for coming. I'm Tammy. I'm with BetterSpaces. We partner with buildings and companies to create programs to help you connect, create, and perform at your highest potential. We're so excited to have Dr. Paul back. Today we have Run Fit, 3 drills to improve efficiency and run longer. Just a little bit about Dr. Paul. It's Dr. Paul Kachowa. He received his doctorate of physical therapy from Mercy College and his BS in exercise physiology from Rutgers. And his treatment philosophy is move better, feel better, and play or run better. So just a little housekeeping. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute and ask at the end or put it in the chat and we'll have a little Q&A at the end. So I think we're going to get started.
All right. Thanks, Tammy. Welcome, everybody, to the second session. We're talking about running. We're talking about 3 drills to improve your efficiency and run longer. So let's get into it. Here we go. So the one thing that I'll have to say is that we have to put a disclaimer up, and this is legal and binding, because this is not physical therapy. This is not medical advice. So if you're dealing with some aches and pains, these exercises are probably not going to help, but they will help you run more efficiently and prevent injury. One of the things I always say is that if there is a medical problem, don't bring a fitness solution to it. All right, so moving forward, let's look at the anatomy of a stride. So if we're running, the best thing to do is think about how efficient can we run. It's all about just really falling forward, letting our center of gravity move forward, and not like that red on the left here, putting your foot out and landing in front of your center of gravity. That acts as a brake. And you have to kind of attenuate that force up into the knee, up into the hip. So that can slow you down and also create a lot of shock through the system. So the green right here in the middle is where we would like to land. Now, landing with a little bit of a 10 to 15 degree lean gives us an efficient posture. So we have to kind of engage the core, keep the abdominals on, but that foot strike should be directly below your center of gravity. And that way, you just basically fall forward, and then you just pull the leg. One of the philosophies is that to run efficiently, we want to limit the amount of bounce. So if you're going up and down like this, that's a lot of shock. We really want to just kind of control that shock and have that center of gravity, have our head move horizontally versus up and down. And we do that by really concentrating on the pull, the leg pull versus the push of the leg, right? So let's get into some thoughts about exercise and drills here. So I'm going to pull this up. And the first thing I want to talk about is developing balance, developing stability in a single leg stance, right? So every split second when you're running, you're going to be on one leg. So being on one leg, we want to make sure that, one, we have a very active and stable glute, which is the side butt cheek muscle, and not the tensor fasciae lata and the IT band. So a lot of times people will run, they'll get like lateral leg pain or lateral knee or hip pain because their IT band or that tensor fasciae lata, which is the muscle that sits in the front part of your hip here, gets overactive because the glute is not working. So how do we do a single leg exercise? So it's really simple. You think about it, right? If I'm going to stand here, I'm facing this camera, I'm going to put my hands on my hips. The hips have to remain level. I don't want the hip to kind of come up or down. So my hands are going to be here, and then I'm going to pick up one leg. And as I pick up one leg, I think, all right, I'm just going to go straight, and the end position is going to look like, if you look at the side view, let's see if this works. It looks like the number 4. All right, so maybe if I'll do this, and I've got my level pelvis, and if I pull this leg up, I'm making this number 4 with my leg. So I've got this very horizontal shin. My knee is forward and equally in front of the heel. So it's like the heel and leg is equal in front. So we're just going to maintain that level base, level pelvis, and I'm going to hold this. And we think, all right, can I hold this for 10 seconds? All right, 10 seconds, eyes open is a normal range. If you cannot hold this position without falling over for 10 seconds, you've got more things to worry about than just running. And then from here, the next advance would be to try and unlock the arms and then see if you could swing your arms in a running fashion, elbows back, elbow forward, elbow back, elbow forward, trying to keep a 90-degree bend. So it's just kind of like, here's my figure 4 position, and I'm doing this. Oh, I turned my head. That was much harder. So that, right? So we got 10 and then 20 seconds if we could work that. The next one that I could think about is just looking at cadence. So cadence is how many steps per minute do you run? So think about getting a metronome and then just counting out how many steps you're taking. Ideally, you should be taking anywhere between 180 and 190 steps per minute. That means 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're counting each leg. Or it turns out to be 90 on one leg. All right, so that's our ideal cadence. You could download a smartphone app. It's called Metronome. It's free. If you just download that, you set the metronome to 180 and you hit play, it'll give you a beat. And then you just go off of that and you try and step. Each step is going to be 180. Now that is irregardless of how fast you're running. You could run a 4-minute mile or you can run a 15-minute mile. It doesn't matter. The steps per minute is what really matters. And it's the same for both paces. The only difference is the stride length. So if you're running a 4-minute mile and you're hitting that 180 steps per minute, your stride is going to be much longer. If you're a 15-minute miler and you're hitting 180 steps per minute, your cadence, your step length is going to be much shorter. What that does is that when we get that high cadence, our foot spends less time on the ground. Less time on the ground equals less ground reaction force, less pounding, right? So it's a quick turnover, a quick step. So how do we do that in running? So the next thing I would like to talk about is the leg pull drill. The leg pull drill, as we get into this position here, is how do we get into this figure 4 position without creating a lot of bounce? All right, so I'll get rid of that. And you can see what's going on here. So we have this single leg position here. So this is our figure 4. And then we did this, all right, getting this, and then seeing, can I maintain this stability for at least 10 seconds on either side? All right. Oh, now we got the jackhammering. I'm hearing jackhammering because behind this door, we are building, I apologize for the noise, because we're building an extension and then they're putting in a new bathroom. So that might be the jackhammering we just saw, we just heard. All right, so I'm going to turn my back to you because the leg pull drill needs a wall. So I'm going to put my hands on the wall with a 10 to 15 degree lean, all right? So part of my back, I'm going to be leaning forward into the wall. And here is my position. Everything is totally straight from hip, knee, and shoulder. From here, I'm going to pull one knee up into that figure 4 position with a little bit of lean on my stance leg. And then from here, I'm going to try and pull that left knee up into that figure 4 position and not worry about what's going on with my right leg. The right leg will go to the ground regardless, all right? So I don't want you to feel like you got to push this down. It's really left leg exercise right now. So it looks like this. So we're going to go here without a lot of bounce, pull, right? Without a lot of bounce, pull. So it's pull, right leg, pull, left leg, pull, right? So it's not a lot of hopping from side to side. So we're creating less vertical force and just a pull and a pull and a pull. So what that does is that as you're running, you're not trying to push off and bounce. You're really just falling forward. If I start like this, I can do my forward lean and then just pull, 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 pull. So as I pull, let's look at this position again. We wind up here. All right, so we wind up in that position. That figure 4 is that green position, and that leg pull, that vertical pull, you can see in that last picture. The last picture is where we want to end. It's just really about pulling versus the push. So I'm going to go back to this angle. So I've got my hands on the wall. got my forward lean, and I think, all right, knee bent, figure 4 on one leg, and then just pull, and then pull, 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 right? And then the other thing too is that as I'm leaning on the wall, I'm not really pushing into the wall. It's just like a 10 to 15 degree, just enough so I'm really light and not falling over. All right. Let's see. Let's get back into here. So the one thing also I want to touch on is foot strike pattern, right? So what hits the ground when it lands below your center of gravity? So research says that it doesn't matter if you're a heel striker or a forefoot striker. It really matters. What's more important is where that strike happens. If it lands in the front, you are undoubtedly a heel striker. In front of your center of gravity, landing in front, no good, right? So we don't want that weight to come forward, but I mean, the heel strike to be in front. But if we are going to heel strike, let me throw you back over here. So if we're going to be running and I am landing without out here, center of gravity is right around here, and I'm landing in front, that's going to be all heel. But if I'm landing right here below me with that 10 to 15 degree lean, and I land with my heel, that's okay because it's in the center of gravity. Ideally, we would like to go maybe midfoot or forefoot to land and then just roll off of that. Think about, like, again, spending the least amount of time on the ground. So if we land heel, then we have to travel through the midfoot and then the forefoot and then roll off of that. So that lands up with more time on the ground and creating more force to the foot. So it's just really, if we go midfoot or forefoot and then just coming off of that and then coming forward or falling forward with our run, that creates less time on the ground and also less force into the foot and ankle. So that's my presentation. Are there any questions? Let's see. Let's pull up the chat and see what we got here. So I could see that, should shoulders be neutral? So basically when we're running and there is this rotation that happens in our lower body, right? So even though the movement is totally straight ahead, there is rotation in the lower body. The shoulders should also rotate in the opposite direction, but shouldn't be like this. No lateral motion. We want forward and then rotation. Neutral meaning no side bend, right? No lateral lean, but really going forward like this. And to maintain that balanced, stacked position over the pelvis and legs, we definitely want the core engaged. What I have people do to run drills on the treadmill is that first thing is we count off their cadence. So if you have a treadmill, if you're running out and you have somebody, or if you can do this on your own, try and time how many steps a minute you get. If you get that metronome app, you hit it every time that you tap it, every time that your foot hits the ground, and you get a number and you see if you're anywhere close to 180. If you're not, and if you're on a treadmill, it's easier, right? You just kind of turn it to 180 or even 190 and then just try to run with that. Usually just changing the cadence changes everything and your posture. And then the second cue that I would give people is pull your elbows, your shoulder blades down and back, and then engage your core. So that's the order of importance that I would do. Another one, what if you like to run on the front of your foot? That's fine. If you want to run on the front of your foot, that's okay. Does the heel ever touch the ground? It depends. If you are sprinting, it never touches the ground, right? So it depends on your speed, your pace, right? So there should be a little bit of a touch, but if it's all front foot, and I've seen a lot of runners just do just forefoot, just boom, 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 the heel doesn't touch the ground, they typically have a really tight Achilles and tight calf muscles. And then that kind of leads us into other issues. So I would say that you got to be careful with that and work on stretching your Achilles and your calves. Let's see, what else? We've got, this is coming fast here. What if you like to run in front of your foot? Got that? How do you practice proper footfall? So proper footfall is how we just did the, let me just pull this back up here. Proper footfall, you don't have to worry about it. The foot will fall where it wants to fall. I'm going to do this on the side. Hopefully I could do this here. So if we've got both things, both hands on the wall, and I've got my 10 to 15 degree, and I'll do it on this side. I'm doing this where I've got this leg up into my figure 4. There you go. It's a little bit better with my knee bent, right? all I'm concerned about is pulling my left leg up. This leg will fall wherever, and your body knows where it needs to fall, right? So I'm not worried about that. And this is the hardest part for a lot of clients that I see, is that they're really concerned. They don't want to fall over. They got to get this right leg on the ground. So what happens is that they do this. They do a little bit of a push, and they hop, right? I don't want that. I just want to pull this left leg, really focus on this left leg, and then just pull. And then pull the right leg, pull. And then the foot just falls automatically where it wants to go. All right, let's look at some other stuff. Let's see. Also, should you do these drills every day? Yes, I would say every day, because they're not running. You're not running, and it shouldn't take you any time, right? So think about if you spend a minute with these 3 drills. The cadence, if you're going, cadence is going to be when you're running, right? So if we're doing a single leg balance stability, right, with the first thing that we did, and then do the leg pull drill, I would do that daily, because you're really rewiring your brain for this different movement pattern if you are like a heel striker, if you're landing in front. So daily. How long should we do? How long? I would go for a minute each. All right. When I stand or walk, I find my feet are angled like a penguin. Do I need to force myself to keep your feet pointed straight? That depends. Why are your feet, right? So if your feet are pointing out like this, we have to figure out why that is. So a physical exam would reveal, is that, so if I'm like this, why is my leg rotated out? Is it tightness? And I see this a lot. Is it tightness in this IT band and this tensor fasciolata muscle, which turns my leg out? And I just kind of walk like that, or I run like that? Or is it my hip, anatomically, how my hips are kind of put in the socket? Or is it the lower leg bone, the tibia, that has a little bit of rotation as well? Or is it the ankle? If I have tight ankles and I'm landing in front, here's a walk. And if I'm going here, if I cannot bring my foot, my knee over that ankle and progress forward because my heel cord is tight and I can't get into this position, your body thinks, all right, how do I get out of that position? I could give it some slack by doing one of these duck walks. So I'm just going to walk. There you go. I'm going to try and do this. So I'm going straight. And then when that leg gets tight, that right leg, that heel cord gets tight, I'm thinking, all right, how do I get out of that? I'm just going to roll around it. And a lot of times I'll see like a flattish foot as well. So there's a lot of reasons why we can have toes out when you're walking. All right.
I think we had another one. What about core engagement?
So the core engagement, yeah. So the core engagement is basically the plug, the power plug that connects the lower body to the upper body. So this counter rotation, your pelvis is rotating one way, your torso is rotating the other. The middle, the core has to be engaged to create a stable connection so that your arm swing counteracts your leg swing. So core engagement, it's almost like the one thing I will say is that if someone were to come up to you and then tap you in the belly, right? That amount of tension that you have to contain or produce is the same amount of tension that I would say that needs to be in the core as you're running, right? So it's just like 20% of volitionary contraction, right? So if I'm going to lift 100 pounds or 200 pounds, yeah, I have to engage that 100%. But if I'm just running, the core, if I'm just tapping myself in the belly, that's basically the amount of tension that I need to have in the core when I'm running.